Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, hailing from Kokona, Wisconsin, riding a CST tires, SSI decals, traveling back Yamaha YFZ 450R, four-time ATV motocross national champion, number 25, Kory Jansen.
To sit here and recount that and hear those stories about, from the LT 250R to the 250R to the hybrid quads to the early days of the production quads to the new Yamaha and all that stuff all the way up till now, and Suzuki and everything else. Like it is unreal to hear like how you touched so many different eras and so many aspects of legendary parts of this sport. It's just amazing. So like I said, you couldn't tell the history of this sport without you. And what's up, everybody? We're back. I'm your host, Kory Jansen. Welcome to episode 66 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, available for purchase and in stock today at shop.csttires.com. We have part 2 of our epic, highly anticipated conversation with Kory Ellis on deck for you tonight. Our previous episode focused on Kory's story up until the release of Yamaha's new YFZ 450 in 2003. So if you didn't hear all that incredible ATV racing history included in part 1, go back and catch that now. But that's where we will start with part 2 tonight. Kory Ellis pioneering ATV racing into the future one final time by debuting the new YFZ that was unlike anything the industry had seen up until that point. Let's quickly say thank you to all of our incredible partners. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nomura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Lunderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Their clippers rock, their nose hair trimmer is amazing, and the new Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer is next level. It's no longer a secret that Manscaped is my go-to to keeping a perfect beard. The Lawnmower 4.0's light, guard, and array of adjustments makes it the perfect package. I've been absolutely loving this thing, and you will too. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner. Get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. As we transition into the off-season, we both know you need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear or parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. But before you buy, simply click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website, and by accessing Rocky Mountain from our specific link, you get your gear and parts needs met, while we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end. This is such an easy and convenient way to help us out. So click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs this off season. We can't thank you enough for that. No new donors to shout out this week since part 1 with Kory Ellis, but if you're interested in donating and hearing your name right here on the show, you can find the Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website if you're in fact interested in donating to support our efforts, and we can't thank you enough for that. Now, the 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go with Kory Ellis, part 2 on the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, brought to you by Yamaha and their podium-proven YFZ 450R. Enjoy. So we're jumping back in with Kory Ellis here, and where we left off was kind of the early stages of the Yamaha. We heard about how the YFZ 450 kind of came about, how you got yours, and then, in very short order, you end up bringing this thing to High Point. I think that would have been like round 8 of the 2003 season. That season had been in crazy flux for you with the Z400, and then you're on a hybrid, and now you're on the YFZ 450. But yeah, like that, you were the talk of the racetrack that weekend with that YFZ 450. That had to be a pretty cool experience to show up with that thing and kind of you were the very first guy racing that thing.
Yeah, no, it was definitely awesome. Like we had so many people in our pits that weekend. It was crazy. Just everybody wanted to come over and just look at it and, you know, see what it was. Cause it was, you know, the Cannondale definitely, you know, was something different, but it kind of trickled out here and there, and you kind of heard rumblings about it a little bit. It wasn't kind of to have the hype.
Sure.
And then the Z400 was kind of a trail bike. So people, you know, in even like the, you know, 400EX, it was nothing crazy, but this was such a big advancement, especially for the racing guys, and it came on so quick. You know, it went from, you know, everybody kind of thought someone was coming, all of a sudden it was announced, and then, oh, we're going to, you know, you can get one in a dealer in like a week. You know, it was like, it was out there, and so people were like putting in orders and like, I'm going to, you know, come over and look at it. Okay, this thing's awesome. I'm going to order one, you know, and leave them in the track. So it was definitely huge at that event for sure. I mean, it was the talk of the race. Everybody came over and looked at it, you know. Unfortunately it rained pretty bad because that was, I think we were running pro production on Saturday, pro on Sunday at that time.
Yeah.
And Saturday it rained and it was pretty muddy. I think Doug or Timmy won. I know I got third, but those two finished in front of me. But like that was, I mean, I'd never ridden that bike with those parts on it. Didn't know shock setup, anything. Just went out and just jumped on it and rode it.
Right. And
at that time, the High Point, they had that. I don't know if it was a double or triple, kind of
by the start.
Yeah, right behind the start, kind of.
Yeah, that triple by the start. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was not the one off to the side, but it was kind of behind it.
Sure. Yep.
Like, you know,
I can still picture it. Yeah.
It was going up the hill towards the pro pit area, or I haven't been there for a while, but towards the pro pit area.
But yeah, that triple, a lot of people will probably be able to envision it, because not the triple next to the start, but the other one. I mean, that was there for that was there for 10 years after that or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
And on Saturday it was muddy, and I was the only one jumping it, and I bent the axle on that thing so bad. I was like, I can't pull off. Like, everybody's out here watching me ride this thing.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
But I was the only one jumping it, but I kept kind of casing it and bent the axle on it. I just rode the thing, you know, and ended up getting a third on it, which was pretty respectable. And then like go back to the hybrid. I had that thing, we de-stroked it, and the next day it was beautiful. The track dried out and was awesome. And I think I went like a 2-1 or a 3-1 or something, and ended up winning on the hybrid.
Yep.
And then I remember the Yamaha guys calling me like, you won on the other bike, how come you couldn't win on our bike? You know, like, dude, like that thing was like, I had zero time on it. I rode it in practice and went and raced it in the mud. Like,
the thing was basically a prototype. I mean, I know it was in production, but there was no parts developed for it. You were basically being baptized by fire. Like that was not a fair comparison. I knew you won on Sunday. You were always good at High Point, I feel like.
Yeah, the track back then was really a lot of off cambers, and I felt like, you know, my riding it at Glen Helen a lot, you know, the hills, you know, charging down the hills, charging up the hills.
Sure.
Off cameras, I felt like provided a lot of passing, you know, and I felt like my weight also, being a little bigger guy, I could weight the bike a little heavier for the off camber. So I had a little bit of advantage, I think, too, there. Sure. So I just really flowed really good with the track, you know, with that from 06, 07. I just, like, or 06, 96, 97, like when I felt like I flowed really good there, rode really good there. I could always make passes there. And it was just a real good track for me, for my riding style at that time.
Yeah, I felt like you always brought your best there. And so you can finish how that conversation went with Yamaha, because I would assume, you being the first guy on the Yamaha, I would assume that had something to do with the Yamaha affiliation that came, you know, in the years that followed.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think going to the press release and then being that first person on that really, because back then they didn't have a racing division like covered for the ATV racing. It was more marketing.
Sure.
So all the marketing guys were there. I got to know the marketing guys real well, you know, in the early years of that bike. And the whole marketing team, you know, Mike, Steve, and Travis, you know, and even the testing guys, Pat and stuff, like I still deal with them to this day with stuff we're doing with
Sure.
the GBC and things. And
yeah,
So I still deal with all those guys. So it really had a really good foundation relationship with those guys, being that first guy and meeting them at those events or at that event. So that definitely helped, I think, down the road, going further when, when I did get a ride with them and things that relationship definitely was a good, strong foundation to build on.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you were the day one guy.
Yeah. But like getting back to the High Point deal, like I always felt like I always started doing good at High Point too. And because back then, like there wasn't like you see Joel and Chad and these guys now, they all throughout the winter, they're riding, they're training, they're mountain biking, bicycling, all this stuff. Back then it was like winter, like we don't ride, it's winter. You might hit a race or two if you can, arena cross if you're back east, or California, we have some races, but it wasn't like serious in the winter. It's like, that's our time off. Like,
right.
Kind of relax, chill out a little bit. So I always felt like too, like my year, I always started off the beginning of the season in pretty bad shape. And by the time High Point rolled around, I was finally getting in my groove, kind of, all right, I'm in better shape now. I'm going to ride the whole moto and stuff. So
sure. Yeah.
That was kind of before we really got serious about stepping up and training at that point.
Well, and that was about, I mean, that was the era where they talk about it in two-wheeled stuff too, where they were, I mean, Ricky Carmichael comes in and, redefines what it's like to be a motocross athlete. Prior to that, they were all the same way. Nobody was out there focusing on their fitness in the off season. Like that wasn't a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that had a lot to do with it, but, and also that year High Point, like I was saying about that hybrid, I ended up winning on that thing. And I was like, thank God we de-stroked this thing, because we finished the race and they're like, okay, we're tearing you down. And I'm just like, tear me down. This is great. I just got, and the other thing was,
thank God you did it before High Point.
And the funniest thing too was I'm just kind of like Joe. I was, I'm a heavier guy. I never got like great starts, but for some reason at that race at High Point, I pulled a huge, there's a picture of it, I think, in a magazine somewhere too. I pulled a huge hole shot in one of the motos on that bike. I mean, by 2 or 3 bikes, it was ridiculous. Like I never got good starts. All of a sudden I yanked this big start, and win the race. Like, we're tearing you down. And
he must be cheating. Sweet.
Yeah. I'm like, sweet, tear me down. And I can't remember who it was that looked at our head, but they pulled that head off, and it's just seeing the look on their face. They're like, this thing's not imported. I'm like, nope. They're like, it's a stock cam. I'm like, yep. This is like bone stock. Like I had to be an 02 CRF 450.
Sure.
Just bone stock with a D-stroke kit. And they're just like, okay, yep, you're legal. Like,
oh my
gosh. How did you do that? So, and everybody has all these built hybrids and stuff. And then I'm like, I just threw together something stock. So that was cool to win that race on that bike. That was, it was a hybrid bike, but it was a bone stock motor,
Well, plus, I mean, yes, like that's obviously awesome. It was just, when it's your day, but it's also like pretty special that earlier in the season, you're struggling your ass off because you're on a Z400,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I can remember, Rod Lapuznak from Suzuki, that was, one of the guys real instrumental in, all the Suzuki race team and success and stuff that really pushed for ATV racing. I remember him calling me, I think after the London, or after that event where I first rode that hybrid, and he's like,
okay,
he's like, hey, what's it going to take for you to stay on that Suzuki? And I'm like, I'm not. Like, I look back at it now, and I hear, after the whole deal, I hear, Timmy's getting paid to win races and podiums and stuff, and Doug is too. And I'm like, dude, if I'd have known that, I would have asked for some money or something, But
you would have stuck with it.
Like, I was so burned on that bike. I was like, I'm getting off this thing as quick as I can. If you just said, hey, you're going to make some extra money, because I was finished on the podium with those guys.
Yeah.
In that pro production class, I would be like, okay, I'll stay on it. But I was like, no, I'm off that thing. Like, get me away from the Suzuki. And I think Rod kind of took it as like, what? Like, he didn't even ask for money. He just told me no.
Oh my gosh.
But Rod and I eventually became pretty decent friends and stuff, with all Suzuki stuff in the future. But
sure,
at the time I was like, no, I'm not riding that thing. Get me off this thing,
Yeah. I'm sure, especially knowing what happens at Suzuki in the years that follow. I'm sure maybe you were thinking you would have wanted to do something differently, but I don't blame you with where the Z400 was at that time. When we were talking about the Z400, I was going to tell you that it wasn't that long ago that I saw a Z400 in the shop, and I thought to myself, I cannot believe that those guys were, trying to race those things. And then obviously, the factory Suzuki effort gets them to the point where they were a ticking time bomb, but they worked, they'd work for a moto or two. And that's amazing that they even got them to that point.
Man, those guys, Cox and Henson and everybody that was on that program, and even Doug riding that thing, I got to give them props. I mean, that thing, they got that bike to work. I mean, like you said, it's a ticking time bomb, but those guys put in so much effort to make that thing work as good as it did. It was really amazing to see. Like, I can't believe it. I mean, after riding one, I just can't believe they could get it to do what it did. But like you said, it was every moto. I think they were putting a motor in that thing.
That's what Doug told us, was every moto they were putting them in. But when you look at them, I mean, like you said, it's a trail bike. So to think that they did what they did, and Doug wins, whatever it was that season, 7 or 8 races, a record at the time, like it's amazing. I think he won 7 in a row, and then like 9 overall or something, whatever it was, what he did on that thing. And I guess that would have been the next season, 04. That was just crazy. Like really, it's crazy that they got to that level with that machine.
Yeah. But so we went to High Point, that was the first race for that Yamaha. And then we go to Loretta's that year after that, which was like, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that. And by then I think the pro production field was like half or 75% Yamahas.
Okay.
Like
everybody,
like everybody pretty much had one by then.
Right.
And I had that bike, and I started riding that thing like crazy between those 2 races, getting used to it and getting it set up. And I went to Loretta's, and I can't remember how my moto finishes were, but I remember I dominated pretty good. And usually Loretta's I didn't do very well.
Okay.
Loretta's always kind of a weak point for me because of the heat and humidity. But
sure. That's next level humidity for a West Coast guy like you.
Yeah, but that year Loretta's I was rolling on that thing, and just I think I worked everybody pretty good on that bike.
That's awesome.
And which, then I think we went to Southwick after that, I think. And I think I got like a 3rd or 4th at Southwick in the pro production, maybe.
Okay.
But Southwick was, I don't know if you raced Southwick, Southwick, you go out there and like, oh, we're going to race Southwick. Oh, it's a national track. I'm pumped to be here. You got in practice. Oh, this place is awesome. It's just sand. It's smooth. It's fast. And then by the time the second motor rolls around, you're like, you think your back is broken and you can't go around there, and it's the worst track ever, and you're like, I'm never coming back here. And
so a lot of our listeners, because obviously people from that time, remember Southwick, were there as obviously as part of the ATV Nationals. How does it compare to like Etchikani? Because more of our listeners will know Etchikani than Southwick.
So Etchikani, to me, Etchikani was like, the lower half was sand whoops and the upper half was kind of clay and hard pack.
Yep.
Southwick was like the bottom half of Etchikani, but worse. The whole thing.
Everywhere.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Like there was nowhere to, by the time even first moto rolled around, second moto, forget it. There was nowhere to rest. There was not a spot to rest. It was just, it's like going to Redbud in the sand whoops the whole entire track.
Yeah.
The whole track.
Oh my gosh.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that one roller section. Just imagine going around, if that was like that all the way around Redbud the whole way. That's what it was.
Well, yeah, because like you watch the Dirt Bike National, and it gets rough. Like it gets rough compared to the beginning of the day, and that has nothing on what an ATV does to a sand track.
Yeah. It's you hope for death. It'd be easier.
Yeah.
Bad.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Second moto was death. But yeah, that's crazy. So the Yamaha thing was obviously gaining momentum at that point. And then was there did you pick up some, I don't know, would you call it a factory ride, or how did that work for 04? Because then, you were obviously exclusive on the Yamaha for 04.
So the Alba deal, like we had the Cannondales, it was kind of like they gave me bikes. Then the next year was Suzuki's, and they gave me bikes and did motors.
Okay.
And then so this whole Alba deal is kind of building along with the Yamaha stuff. So for 04, Yamaha decided, okay, we're going to have a factory team, which Yamaha it's factory support, I would call
Yeah.
it, not a factory team. They give, even with Chad, they give Chad bikes, they pay him a little bit. They give him parts or, whatever his deal is, but they don't have a rig for him. It's not a full blown factory.
Even
kind
on
of deal.
even on the dirt bike side, Star Racing's privately owned,
Yeah.
It's just how
Yeah,
Yamaha goes.
But I mean, because it was a factory support deal that, everybody kind of wanted because it was the first thing, and Yamaha announced, oh yeah, we're gonna have a factory team. And I think it was Shane and Jeremiah the first year.
Okay.
04,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. So I was a little bummed out that I didn't kind of get that call.
Yeah.
And
rightfully so.
but-
You were day one, and you were winning the races the year before. So
Yeah, so I was a little bummed out, but I think Jeremiah won the championship that year. So I think they might have wanted the number one guy, and Shane was Shane was kind of the TT guy, even though they weren't, he was still running TT at the time, I think. And, he was doing okay in the moto stuff, but he was like kind of TT championship. I think that's kind of why they went after those two.
Okay.
And then I had an Alba deal, which Kory decided, hey, this is, we're selling bikes. We can sell these parts on it. He kind of saw the potential for it. And it was like, kind of like, I think they still gave us maybe some parts or discount on parts through the shop. But basically it was Kory had the bikes. I brought in some sponsors. He brought in some sponsors, and they built the bikes. And his whole deal was like, let's chase this a little harder and develop our Alba racing side of stuff. And we'll do motor pack, because they were starting to do motor packages too. So they got, one of the mechanics over there, Rob Vector, which is still a close friend of mine.
Okay.
He started building motors, and figuring out the motor packages, and they kind of started this whole racing side of the stuff, and I think they sponsored Tracy Checo or Pickens.
Yep.
That year too. And I think maybe Borch on a Honda back then too.
Okay.
So they had a couple riders here and there that they were starting to sponsor, and some guys racing West Coast stuff too, and some Baja stuff like Wayne Matlock and some things. So they kind of had this whole racing program that they were starting to do, and then and then also the Honda was going to come out as well too.
Sure.
So they had this whole, kind of like, you can buy a bike from us and we'll put all these parts on it. We'll do the motor for you, and you can just buy the whole thing. So it was kind of this whole program that they were trying to promote and build. And that I kind of fell right along with that as being a promotional, asset to that whole program.
Yeah.
So we did Yamahas. Yamaha gave us a little bit of support through there, but it wasn't a factory deal. So that's, if you see 05 stuff, I was kind of I don't know if we were a little bitter in a way, but we're like, okay, we're going to, the Yamahas their whole Yamaha program's blue. We're going to run white with blue. So that's why we ran the white and blue that year. So we kind of did that, but we weren't like mad. It was just kind of like, we got our kind of our own program, but we're going to make it a little different,
Yeah.
So so Kory decided, okay, we'll have Rob do the motors, and we're going to send Rob along to the races with you to help wrench on the bikes and, make sure the motor's running good. And so kind of got a little more of a factory feel package deal, and really promote this deal. So, and then at that time, end of the year, ATV motocross side there, okay, we're going to have the first race, with all the industry people in California, we're going to have, and quadcross by then had grown so big, they were getting 300-400 riders, that we're going to have the first national in Glen Helen. Industry's out there. Quadcross is big. We can pull from those people if people don't want to travel for the amateurs. They announced all that, and then it was going to be pro production only. There no more hybrids. So it was like, we're here. We're production bikes now. Let's go. Let's go for this full tilt. Basically.
Yeah, this is music to your ears at this point. And we're going to Glen Helen, which is obviously exactly where you want the opener to be.
Yeah, 04 Glen Helen. By then I've been in California 6-7 years, basically riding at Glen Helen 2 days a week, almost the whole entire year, because it doesn't rain, it doesn't snow, the weather's not bad.
Right.
So I'm practicing all the time, on Thursdays and Saturdays, just about every weekend, that I have a chance. I'm like, this is awesome. So, they announced that race, and basically we started testing bikes, and like crazy. And I rode, and all of our testing was at Glen Helen, we were just there constantly, and
Right.
came out that first race, and pretty much checked out that first got the whole shot and checked out on everybody the first moto. And second moto, I think I got the whole shot again. Doug came up on that Z400, passed me. I passed him right back, and then I was racing with him. I'm like, I don't know why I'm racing with him. He got like third or fourth the first moto. I got this thing locked up. I'm not anything stupid, and
Okay.
just basically kind of rode around second and ended up winning that first round that year. Going points lead into round 2.
Oh, that's awesome. That has to be, when you think back on some of the highlights of your career, that has to be one of the most memorable, I would think, just being like, it was a home-ish race for you, obviously being a California guy at this point, just to come out at the beginning of the year, and you're not on the Yamaha team, the factory team, whatever, like that, just all of that coming together. That had to be such a special day.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I mean, I didn't win a lot of races. I won a few. But it's one of those things that, when you're on, you're on, when you're on, it's just, everything clicks, you're out there and you have it that day, you feel it, everything's flowing. It's just,
and
it was one of those days that just, from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, it's just a great day, and everything just happens just right, and it was one of those really memorable days that happened.
Well, especially when you talk about spending the whole winter, prepping for this thing, every lap that you're probably out there spinning these practice laps and testing and everything else, you're envisioning like this national, and then to actually have it come to fruition like that had to be, again, like that's what a person dreams of really as an athlete. We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. Welcome to the team, two-time champ Joel Hetrick, who dropped the biggest news of the offseason when he announced his move to CST Tires. The CST takeover has been gaining momentum over the past several seasons, and now Joel Hetrick and his Phoenix Racing teammate Jeffrey Rastrelli are the most recent additions. The Pulse MXR tire has helped lead riders like Thomas Brown to race wins and 3 consecutive Quad Cross of Nations titles, Nick Janusa to the Pro Class podium, myself, Cody Jansen, as I rode my Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears to back-to-back national championships in the Junior 25 Plus class, and the most recent additions have us thinking a Pro Class national championship is on the horizon for CST tires. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, myself, and so many others are believers in CST tires. Are you? CST Tires, where passion meets the ground. You already know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. Whether it's second all-time winningest, 7-time and reigning ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, or 6-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFC 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This unprecedented success for the YFC 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undeniable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has created a Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Better yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and even stronger for 2021, meaning Yamaha riders are about to cash in on higher payouts and more prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com, follow them on social media at Yamaha Outdoors, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. For over 150 years, Valvoline has led the charge by being dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, and for the better part of a decade, I've been fortunate enough to be part of the historically great Team Valvoline. From my commuting vehicles to small engines, race quads, and everything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline in all of my equipment. I've experienced increased function and durability as well as a longer life expectancy thanks to Valvoline's array of products and lubricants. Since 1866, Valvoline has been focused on bettering your experience, whether on road, on track, and everywhere in between. Upgrade to Valvoline today and check them out at valvoline.com. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and oh yeah, 6-time NHRA world champion Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Head over to SSIDecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their range of championship winning chains. Powered by technology, DID chains are designed to give you the greatest strength to weight ratio, making them the optimal chain for racing and giving you a championship level edge. DID has been driving championship-winning race programs since 1933, chosen by champions such as Chad Wienen, Joel Hetrick, and myself, Cody Jansen. Champion above the rest is DID's 520 ATV2 chain, with those same design principles and materials being used throughout their entire line of products, including their on-road category as well. Pick up a DID chain today at your local dealer or a reputable online e-tailer. DID. What drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Numira Technologies. Since 2001, Numira has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Numira's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, that allows for tighter tolerances, and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Numira's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, and industry-leading top-end repair kits, visit your local dealer or online at www.numira.com. Numira Technologies, pistons with an attitude. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV Components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals like rods and cylinders, all the way down to suspension parts and bearing kits. Bronco is your hard part source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world. Visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
I'm going to throw this out there, not a jab at John, but
Okay.
Wes Miller had that fall right before that race. Wes Miller put on
Dirt
the Dirt Riot race. First one, he has like a bunch of bands playing, and it's in this like little stock car center track of this thing, and he pulls these big jumps and whoops and all this stuff. And that time I'm riding like crazy. And we go to this Dirt Riot thing, and John's there, and Dana, and all these people, and I get this Yamaha, and I'm riding this thing, and I get out there, and I just start waxing everybody on this thing, and I'm pulling away, and and there's like 2 laps to go or 3 laps to go, and remember the Yamaha had the key like right where your knee was at.
Yeah.
I bump that thing and turn it off like with a lap or 2 to go, and I stop, and I'm like, oh man, the thing died, and I'm like, dang it, what the hell? And it's like $5,000 to win or something, And I'm all, dang it. And I finally realized the keys off. And by then, John passes me, and I think Dana or somebody passes me. And I get the thing fired up, and I get second at it, and John wins this one-off race. And I was so pissed. So pissed. So, yeah, that was only like a week or 2 before that national. So I think on that national, I also had a lot of aggression going.
I wanted that $5,000. So I thought I read Did that prompt Yamaha moving the key? That have anything to do with that?
I don't know if it did or not, but I know I complained about it to him quite a bit about that. Cause I was
Okay.
like, you just lost me $5,000.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
After-
at least then at least what I read was that you were, one of the reasons for that getting moved. So whether it was or not, that key got moved. Yeah. To have it right in front of your knee probably wasn't the greatest place for that thing.
Yeah. So after that, we relocated it too. That
Gotcha.
was the last race we're
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big deal. I remember that dirt ride race being a big deal back then.
Yeah. That was, and John won some of those. I feel like John won some of those big one-off races. I feel like I won a few things too. I know Pellin had that rockin' race and ATV thing in Kentucky one year. I won that, and there's been some other things, but I feel like John won a few of those things, and I was like, or I always seemed like I felt like I did good at the one-off stuff.
Yeah.
Even that great outdoor games. I think I got fourth, but I think something happened. I was way back and passed my way up, but
Okay.
I don't know why, but one-off races were always kind of my forte. I felt like, dude.
Yeah. So we covered that with John. I mean, I straight up told him, I'm like, yeah, like I feel like you were a gamer that stepped up to the plate when, at those one-off races like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think that, I'm glad you're giving yourself some credit because you said you've won a few races. Yeah, you won some races. You were always like literally always in the mix though. Like that's what stands out to me too for a decade plus, like you were just always right there. And I feel like that's something, there's something to be said about that too. So that was the beginning of the Yamaha thing and, or being on a Yamaha, but not factory. But then you did end up being a factory rider in the years that followed, right? Or at least there was at least 1 year there you were.
Yeah. So the end of that 04 season, we did okay, but we had, definitely some learning curves that year. We had a few mechanicals that year that just were learning the bike basically.
I was going to say brand new bike. It's a brand new bike at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we, had a few learning things, but end of the year, I did get a Yamaha support deal. So that's what you see in 04, 05. We were running blue plastic and had the graphics and autograph stock and all that stuff, through Yamaha.
Okay.
So 04, 05 were Yamaha years, but it was still through Alba. They felt like that was a good promotion. Because they, like I said, even with like Chad, it's like, hey, here's bikes, here's parts, here's money, but it's kind of your own deal, so we got to stay through Alba, Kory, it was a good thing for Kory and, to help build his business and promote his business too. So it worked out for everybody. Kory offered a lot of support for me. That he was, monetarily, parts, anything like that we needed. It was pretty much covered. I wasn't making money where I was stacking money and retiring. I was paying my bills for sure. And I think, in 06, the last year, 06, so we did 05, 06. We did good, but never great. And we we're always changing parts. Like that bike in 04, I had PEPs and Metalcraft suspension.
Okay.
And then 05, Kory's like, we're going to do Epic stuff and Elka shocks, and then 06, that all changed. And we ran Olin shocks and Lager stuff, so every year we never had something we stuck with. So that was kind of a hard deal. And then Rob, that was my mechanic in 04, 05 that was building motors. The guy was, man, he was putting his heart and soul into it and working late nights. And by 06 came around, I think he was a little burnt out. Bikes were running really good. Everything, we really kind of were trying to find a package. Bikes always ran really good 04, 05. And then he got a little burnt out and he found another job at a different dealer.
Okay.
That paid a little more money and he was going to be home more. And it kind of was his deal. So 06, we started all over with motor, and 06, I really felt like myself. That was kind of when I really came into my training program, and like 06 was probably the best in shape had ever been.
Okay.
And, so 06, I was ready to go, but with that new engine package program, we were just way far behind everybody else. I mean, I remember going to WPSA, what was it? The one in Jersey at Englishtown.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
they had that big uphill jump tabletop thing or
Double
step up.
thing. Yeah.
And I was everything I had to get on top of that thing or over it. Like my bike was struggling to say the least.
Yeah. Oh
So
boy.
the whole year I was in good shape, but I was just, the bike wasn't there. Like I just beat myself up, like stuff like where I kind of felt like as I was excelled on jumping stuff, I was struggling to get over things, and it was everything I had to do what I was out there doing.
That's a shame too, because that was your last full season, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, '06 was a tough year. I mean, for me, I was putting in 110% effort, but I felt like I was only showing 75. I mean, it was a hard year.
And that's disheartening when you're putting all that in and feeling like you're not getting the results that you deserve, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I felt bad for sponsors, and, Kory was spending a lot of money on it and in our program, and, everybody was putting in a ton of effort, but, it just wasn't showing, it was a real shame,
Yeah.
And then that year, so into that year, that was when Yamaha went from the support coming from basically the PR department, the marketing department,
Yep.
to having it basically someone doing it for the racing side of things. So it came in and everything, or basically the way they structured everything changed, and they got, I think Travis and I think Pat rode for him in 2007 then, I think.
Okay.
I think it was Travis and Pat.
Yep.
So they kind of switched. I mean, every year it's like people kind of were with them for a year or two, and then they'd switch, and a year or two, and they'd switch. So nobody was there really long, far as riders,
Right.
Other than a couple of years, kind of like they were trying to find that guy, or find someone that was fit the package. But it was a tough deal because they'd here's bikes, here's parts, here's a little bit of money, go out and win. And it's like, okay, and then at the time, all of a sudden Suzuki comes in, spending money, and Joe and these guys have Honda, who comes in and dumps a bunch of money into their programs. And
right. So you're kind of feeling apples to oranges, like you're not giving me all the tools I need here.
Yeah. But I mean, you make do with what you got, and you do the best you can, I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, so end of '06, man, I was burnt. Like I remember leaving Bill Balance's race was the last race that year.
Yep.
And I remember just struggling so bad there, and I was so frustrated. We packed up, and when we pulled out of there, I can't remember if we left the easy ups or left the banners or something. I just packed up, and I'm like, I'm like, somebody will take them home as a souvenir. I don't even want to pack them up. I just want to go home. Like I'm over this year. I just want to go home, regroup, figure out what's going on for next year, come back with something better. I mean, when I pulled out of there in '06, I was burnt, but I never thought when I pulled out of there that was going to be my last full year. Like
right.
It never dawned on me. I was going to go back, figure it out, and come back next year stronger, or try to fix what I needed to on my program. That was my thinking when I pulled out of there.
Yeah. Because that was what I was going to ask is, did you know it was the end? And obviously you're saying it wasn't, which is a shame because, it kind of does probably feel like you got the rug ripped out from underneath you.
Yeah. I got home and, kind of tried to start regrouping. And like I said, Yamaha kind of changed their whole program and decided to go a different direction with a couple other people. And at the same time, I think, it was end of '06, beginning of '07, I think Kory was already starting to feel, because his dealership, he built a brand new building, went really big on it, tons of employees, spending lots of money on the programs he was doing, not only mine, but other ones. And I think he was one of the first people that I kind of got the feeling from that, even though the recession kind of hadn't hit yet, I think it was already starting to affect him. And we kind of talked into the year, and he is like, man, the returns starting to drop off on all the stuff I'm seeing on sales. And, last year, '05 was really good. And the 6 year, it's just second half's like, it's getting real light, and he's like, I just can't I can't commit to what I did the year before just because the return's going down, and I don't, I'm not kind of feeling that it's building still, even though Suzuki's coming out with a new bike and things like that. He's like, it's not feeling like it's there.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't him wanting to leave you out in the cold. It was just that the numbers didn't add up.
Yeah. So it was, and with this Yamaha deal going away and Suzuki coming on board, and that 06 season, or was it, yeah, 06, they had the LTRs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, the first year. So
that was the first year. Yep.
And then I was like, well, maybe it's, there's another bike out there that's a good bike to start with. And maybe that's a better direction, and try something different to freshen up my program maybe. And so
yep,
I wasn't real sure what I was going to do or going to find, and go back to good old Pellin. Pellin has a magazine bike again,
Okay.
He's got a Suzuki, well, and I don't remember why it was in California, but somehow it ended up in my house. And I'm like, I went and wrote, and kind of a funny deal. Like I had my Yamaha contract was till the end of December in 06. And I got a call, and the Cowies weren't out yet. I got a call from someone over at Cowie about, hey, do you want to go film a Cowie commercial? I'm like, film a Cowie commercial? Like, what on? Oh, it's a new bike. I'm like, okay. Like that. I was kind of thinking, maybe this might be a good way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I got flown to Canada to shoot the Cowie commercial for the new KFX.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So yeah, so I, other than probably testing department, I was probably one of the first people to ride a Cowie. Went up there and filmed a commercial right after my Yamaha contract ended.
Okay.
And after I rode that, I was like, that's not the way to go. So,
well, that was good. That was good. You got the first opportunity to be like, okay, check that off.
Yeah. So I was like, I think that Suzuki's a better start, especially if I don't have a full tilt deal, if I'm going to try to do something on my own again.
Right.
So I got Pellin's bike and I started riding that thing and rode that thing for about a month or so. And about that time I was trying to find some help and really couldn't find, I mean, how hard it is to go to the races living back east and trying to do it.
Oh, I can't imagine. Oh, I've been sitting here thinking this whole time, I have no idea. I mean, yeah, because it's a huge undertaking to be from Wisconsin and be, far from a lot of the far, quote unquote, from a lot of the races. Yeah, you coming from the West Coast and having to go thousands and thousands of miles to get to the closest one. Yeah, that would be a recipe for disaster for most people.
Yeah, and in 06, and I was paying for all my own fuel in 06.
Okay.
And when I turned in all my stuff to my accountant, she called me and she goes, "Is this right for your fuel expense?" She said, I don't want to get audited. Is this right? And I'm like, why? She's like, you spent $2,000 on fuel.
Oh my
in 06. And I was like, what? I mean, I just, I wasn't making a ton of money. I'm just paying bills as they come in and run my credit card up and not paying attention and save my receipts from my accountant.
Hey, sometimes it's easier not to look.
Yeah, I'm not adding it up in my head, And she goes, yeah, you spent just over $30,000 on fuel last year.
Oh,
when she told me that, and I'm like, oh my God, it's, and at this time I'm selling all my old race bikes from 06 to pay bills and things. I'm like, I can't. Started kind of doing rough math, and I'm like, I can't build a bike, go back, race this, on, because this is, I hadn't had a job. This is 06. Last time I had a job was 02. So I was 4 years, or beginning of 02. So I was 4 years without a job, just living off race money. Yeah. From California,
Jeez.
And I kind of had nothing to show for it other than just having a couple bikes that, from Yamaha that were given to me, that I had built with parts, and paying my bills. So I was like, I gotta pay bills next month. Like, I gotta find a job.
Okay.
And so, go back to Wayne Henson, Wayne's done a lot for me throughout my career here and there. I call Wayne and like, hey Wayne, do you know of anybody that's hiring that I can get a job? I need to make some money. I got to figure something out. I don't have a trade, other than racing. So I got to figure out a job for something. He goes, Brant Russell was a real big part of that Yoshimura deal. He was all about the ATV racing over at Yosh and
Okay.
part of that Suzuki deal. And he goes, well, let me call Brant over at Yosh and, because they're all into the ATVs right now and maybe they got something for you. So I went and met with Brant and Wayne at lunch one day and, Brant was like, yeah, I think I might have something for you. So Brant went back, talked to Don Sakura, that was the president of Yosh, Yosh America. And Brant basically found / made a spot for me at Yosh as brand manager.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, yeah, help us develop some parts. We're doing LTR team, doing Suzuki team there because Yosh ran the Suzuki team.
Yep.
And he was like, we got to develop some parts and some things, and you can, help develop some parts for Yosh, and kind of be our brand manager. We'll send you to the races to make sure that, kind of be the Yosh rep at the races for the team and stuff. And, so that's kind of how that all started, and it was like, all right. And like, he's like, yeah, and you can, he goes, you're local here. He goes, oh, I think Dustin won quad cross, because the problem with quad cross is blowing up in California. Like it was getting big. Yamaha was putting a bunch of money into it. But with my national schedule, I'd miss half the races. I couldn't go to quite all the races and things. So I'd win a race here, win a race there. Dustin's win the championship. Jeremy Shell's win the championship. But here's me. I haven't been able to race the whole series other than the first 4 races back in 98 or whatever, 99,
Yeah.
So I'd win a couple of races here and there, but I can't win the championship because I'm never there. So Brant's like, yeah, why don't you focus on that? Be the brand manager at Yosh. Go to some races, make sure everything's good with Yosh, kind of build that Yosh presence at the nationals and things. So I'm like, all right. So all of a sudden I had a job and I'm working over at Yosh, kind of got all these like things going on. So I went out and raced. And part of my deal, so I have Pellin's bike, Suzuki. So I ended up pulling all the parts off of it that he had on it. Maybe I like some Lone Star stuff on it or something. I pulled all of it off and kind of put together a somewhat factory bike, but not factory bike, but some shocks and some things on it. And I raced quad cross that year and went to so that was 2007. First race I think was Alabama.
Yeah, ATV National. Yep.
Yeah, it was Alabama. So I went there as a Yosh employee to Alabama to watch.
Okay.
He's like, and Brant's like, yeah, when we come to Glen Helen, you can ride Glen Helen. You got Glen Helen. It's Glen Helen. We'll make sure you can ride that one.
Okay.
All right. So I go to Alabama, and I remember like yesterday, Ryan Cox and I are standing there at the whoops behind the starting line, watching practice.
Oh, I know where this is going.
And here comes Chad. Because Chad the year before, like in 06, he was hanging around. Him and Alan White, my mechanic that year, were like really good friends. And Chad was always hanging out.
Okay.
Over our trailer and stuff, hanging out and just shooting the shit and, being Chad.
Yep.
So here comes Chad, comes blowing back through these whoops, and Chad's 40 pounds or whatever lighter,
Yep.
and just on the gas. And Ryan and I look at each other and just like, oh my God, that kid is going so fast. Like we were just like, wow.
Yeah. And for a refresher for the listener here, Chad was a top 10 guy the year before, except at Walnut. At Walnut, he was gnarly. And then he was just top 10 guy.
Yeah.
He had that one, it was 06. He podiumed at Sunset Ridge. But at every other race, because that was his home track, at every other race, he was just hanging around the top 10, and he goes home and, basically rebuilds himself and comes out at the beginning of 07, and he's next level.
Chad comes out, and Ryan, I just remember looking at Ryan and we're just like, wow, like, look at that guy. Like, it was like a total different guy. Like, he's way leaner and he's going, he was fast before, but he was like next level all of a sudden, like out of the blue. It was like,
yeah.
Right from the get-go in practice. And we're like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
And so that was crazy. I think I can't remember if we went to one other race before.
Yeah. He'd raced.
Yeah,
there was at least 2 before Glen Helen. I just can't remember. Yeah. I know Alabama Texas was the one. Maybe it was Texas. Yeah, it might have been.
And I can't remember what happened in Texas, but I think he broke both of those races. I think.
Etchikani, I think might have been
Etchikani.
before Glen Helen. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he broke. But I mean,
Yeah.
he was fast, but he had some issues, you know. And
Yes. Yep.
So, and I think that was '07. Yeah, so '07, the first race for Suzuki that year. So Jeremiah got hurt. Dustin got the ride. So that was their first race, Dustin and Doug, and it was a huge mess because end of '05, end of '06, Dustin signed his Red Bull deal.
Oh yeah.
So Dustin's a Red Bull rider, and then he signs the Suzuki deal, which is a Rockstar team.
Right. Yeah.
So they got Dustin with the Red Bull helmet under the Rockstar Suzuki team.
Right.
So this is like, it's just this brewing storm of a mess. And they go to the first race, and something happened with the mapping on the bike. I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
I think the rev limiter got turned up, but the motor wasn't set for it. But anyways, Doug and Dustin both popped a motor like within like feet of each other.
Oh my gosh.
So there was like panic, and they turned the ECUs down, or they remapped the bikes, and they were trying to figure out if it was an ECU issue or a motor issue. So I think, like you said, we went to another race. I don't remember how it went, but going to Glen Helen, Brant's like, yeah, you're riding, you can ride Glen Helen. I'm like, sweet, I'm gonna ride Glen Helen. So I show up at Glen Helen.
Yep.
And they aren't still 100% sure on the motor deal with blowing those two bikes up right back to back. Like, it's Dustin and Doug both literally, one broke, the other one broke, and they were parked nose to tail on the side of the track at Alabama.
Okay.
So we go to Glen Helen, and they're like, we're just going to give you the full package on your motor, and we're going to keep theirs detuned just a little bit just to be on the safe side. And I'm like, sweet, I got something good here.
Okay.
I'm all pumped.
Yeah.
And so we go out the first moto, and I think Chad might have won the first moto, or Joe did. I can't remember now, but I think I got like a second or a third, but I beat Dustin and Doug. So I'm out there with the Yosh box, man, my own kind of little deal on the side of their truck,
And you're the top Suzuki guy.
Yeah, the first moto, I'm like, all right, sweet. I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna beat these guys out here.
Yeah.
I got a little better motor than them, but I'm like, I'm gonna still beat the fast team. All right.
Right.
Kind of like, and I'm just out here having fun, basically,
Yeah.
So second motor rolls around, and I think the second turn I got tangled up with somebody and went down.
Oh,
and I
shoot.
was like, dang it. But I get up, and I rode the whole moto like it's one of those races when you get done and you don't think about it, and next thing you know, the checkered flag's out, and you're like, that's it? Like, it's already over? It's not, you're not suffering. You're just like, you want more,
Yeah. Isn't that funny how that happens when you crash? Like,
Yeah.
or something happens and your mind never wanders. Now it's just hammered down the whole time.
Yeah. And I remember I had to turn the bike back over, get on and get going. I think I got up to like fourth or fifth or something. Like maybe fifth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you got fifth overall on the day then. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it was like, if I would have finished like 2 spots higher, I would have been on the podium or something, I think, and I was pretty bummed on it, but
yeah,
I remember Chad freaking schooled everybody till he blew up. Like, it was unreal. And everybody there was talking about it and like, oh my God, the kid is so fast, just just rode the wheels off the bike and blew the bike up.
Sure.
And the whole time too at the race, the Rockstar guy shows up at the race and has a complete meltdown,
Boy.
just screaming at the top of his lungs, yelling at the Suzuki guys, yelling at everybody, just complete meltdown because Dustin's there with this Red Bull helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
And after the race, it's like freaking DEFCON 5. Like, people were just like, oh my God, like, they're going to pull their funding from the motocross team. They're pulling all their thing from Suzuki because Dustin's there with the Red Bull helmet. Like, it's just like they're like, we got to resolve this somehow. And so they find this clause basically in the contract that says that they have to have two two riders under the tent for Rockstar.
Okay.
So they're like, we got to get another rider. We got to get another rider. So Rod calls me, and Rod called a lot of people, but he also called me, he called Cox, he called a few people.
Okay.
You know, and it was like, we need to find another rider. We got to get someone in a tent. So like, we need somebody like now.
And it's a no-brainer who you got to call.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, it was like, Weenan, call Weenan, dude. He probably would have won a race by now if he wouldn't have broke. You know, call the guy. He's on fire. Like, you know, because by then the season's already started. You know, I mean, I think Cowie had their guys. You know, got Timmy and Joe and Italian Hondas. You know, so I mean, like kind of like the good rider. Well, I shouldn't say good riders, but the guys who were possibly can pull off a win pretty quickly. They're, you know, good fit.
They're all accounted for.
They're kind of somewhat all accounted for, you know. I mean,
and for the listener, I pause for 1 second. Don't forget what you're saying there. But for the listeners, it's so hard to describe if you weren't around at that time to think that a guy just came out basically out of nowhere and is like winning level speed in the pro class against how stacked that class was at the time. Like a person who wasn't around then, it's really hard to picture what Chad was doing.
It wasn't even. It almost wasn't even winning level speed. He was like
next level.
On the next level. I mean, it was crazy. You know, I mean, you see Chad ride now, and you're kind of used to seeing how he rides, but at that time it was different. Mm-hmm. Like he looked different on the bike. He had more speed. He carried more speed. It was just, he had all these things that that year he really went and worked on and found that. Right. I think in his riding style. And I think, you know, and not to knock Chad at all, I think he was a heavier guy and he carried that weight for so long, you know, when he was a football player and so strong that when he lost that weight, it was like he had super strength almost, you know, and he could muscle the bike. He could muscle the bike where most people couldn't because they weren't used to carrying that extra weight on them kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know, and so I mean, when he got on the bike, he just throw the bike around. He could push the bike down through the whoops.
Oh,
I mean, he just rode the bike so much different because he was so strong. Yeah. And I think it was from honestly, I think it was from carrying that weight that he lost.
Yeah, very well could have been. But the way that he, like you said, throwing the bike down, the way he would scrub, how he was so fluid, he was so strong, he was so aggressive in the gnarly whoop sections and stuff, like what he was doing at the time. I mean, like you said, nobody had really seen any of that yet. As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths and upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DiggingDeep20. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is also sponsored by DP Brakes, a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology. DP has been dominating the ATV world for decades, supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. 2021's impressive lineup includes Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli of the Phoenix Racing Team, myself, Cody Jansen, and my back-to-back national championships, Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, Wesley Wolf, and many more, including all of the top 14 GNCC Series pros, led by the champ Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, and Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on the top of the podium. Available at www.dp-brakes.com, purchase at your local dealer, or message the show for their contact info today. What are you waiting for? Join the best ATV riders in the world on DP Brakes. 15 years into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back with us and continuing to make huge waves in the ATV world. For the second consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for some of the fastest riders on the planet. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of products available for all makes and models. Want to be just like Joel Hetrick and Jeffrey Rastrelli riding with Factory 43's industry-leading products? Head over to factory43atv.com today.
Yeah, and it kind of came, Dustin was like smooth, and, Dustin didn't look fast. I'm kind of like Chad, but Dustin, I don't know, is this a different type of rider from Dustin, or even Doug was kind of more old school, and
yes,
just is this a whole different kind of riding style that you kind of had never seen, or you had never seen before at the ATV races.
Yeah, like Doug's the traditional, like, old school guy. Wimmer was like the fluid, really smooth guy, and then Chad was just gnarly aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah, Chad was the guy that muscled the bike, but didn't like Jeremiah was. You'd watch Jeremiah ride that 06 season, you could swear that his throttle was stuck.
Yeah. Yes.
It was on the rev limiter, bouncing off the berms, bouncing off this.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember him crashing at Daniel Boone at WPSA.
Okay.
I think he got ran off the track, and I swear to you, he was upside down going off the track, and he was wide open, still sitting on the bike. Like he thought he was going to land like a monster truck and come out of it and take off.
Keep going.
It wasn't like throw the bike and get off it. I remember seeing him. The bike's tumbling, starting to go upside down, and he's on it, still sitting on the seat, wide open.
Oh my god.
And I was just like, oh my God, this guy is on kill. Like, he is going for it. And maybe that was like the Suzuki win bonus money or something. I don't know.
Right.
But that 06 season, Jeremiah, till he got hurt, he was on next level, but he just had that aggressive, just never lift mentality that he kind of like a Barsha, back in the day or something,
Yeah. Yep.
But when Chad came on, it was a different deal, and like I was getting to, they had to find somebody to fill that spot. And pretty much it was like Rod came to me, came to Ryan, came to a few people, like, we got to fill the spot, but it's going to be, we got to figure, it came to Ryan. It was like, hey, Ryan, you're already doing a ton of motors. Can you do some more motors? And Ryan's never a guy to back away from. Ryan Cox, never a guy to back away from work at all.
Right.
And he's like, I'll build the motors. And like, well, we need another mechanic. And Ryan's like, I'll just do it. I mean, because Ryan knew Chad too from the years before a little bit.
Yep.
And he's like, I'll do it. And because, Ryan, I think, could see the potential in Chad, and Ryan stepped up, and like, I think Theo, I can't remember if Theo wrenched for him a little bit, but Ryan jumped in and started wrenching too. you know, but that Suzuki team, that 07 year was pretty cool, you know, and all of a sudden I felt bad for Dustin because Dustin won a lot of races. Dustin did really good, but Dustin got the short end of the stick on that deal because next thing we know, we have the Rockstar tent, Rockstar truck, everybody's underneath of it. And then here's Dustin, the tent next to it.
Off to the side.
Dustin has a 10x10 easy up on the side of a factory truck that he's pitting under. A factory guy under a 10x10 tent over there. You know, and I mean, if Dustin is an awesome guy. He's different in the way that he's not really outspoken. He's very quiet, very humble.
Yep.
And I had a laugh when his interview. I had a laugh. I listened to it, and Dustin's Dustin. Him and Jeff Scharf. It's a real good friend of Dustin's.
Okay.
And Jeff and I became pretty good friends. I met Jeff from Dustin. We call each other all the time, and I called Scharf after that, and I'm like, Scharf, what's up with your boy? He's like, oh my God, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah, you know, because you asked Dustin a question, like, Dustin, how was it win the championship? It was good.
Yeah,
you know, that's
there was,
you know,
I had to do a little prying to get a little more out of him for sure.
But Dustin's an awesome guy. He's just super quiet, super humble.
Yeah,
you know, and he's not a personality. He's there to win races and do his job. And, you know, I don't think he wanted the attention. He was there because he loved to race quads, and and that's what he did. And he wanted to go there and win. And he put his heart and soul into it and trained his butt off, and he won. But man, the poor kid, he'd sat there in that tent all season long. I felt so bad for him. Just like redheaded, if you're already a quad guy, you're redheaded stepchild. Now even worse, you're on a factory team, but we kind of act like we don't know you, even though you're winning races and everything. But you're just kind of over there, you know.
Yeah.
So I felt bad for him that year, you know. And Chad comes in, you know, and Chad comes in and basically takes Dustin's spot, you know.
I mean, basically, and steals kind of some of the thunder and stuff, you know, like all the hype and whatever. So yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah, you know, but you know, Chad came in, and you know, Chad, I think won a couple of races that year. That year, I think it was Casey, Illinois or somewhere. The team sweep the podium, which was,
Taylorville.
That was Taylorville,
Illinois.
yeah.
Yep.
You know, that was an awesome race. You know, I mean, like at that time I kind of didn't work kind of for the team. I was kind of a Yosh guy, but I was there for that whole thing, and I mean that was a awesome deal.
If I remember correctly, swept the podium, and Russell Shoemaker was either fourth or fifth. So it was like 4 of the top 5.
Yeah. You know, so I mean that 07 year was pretty cool. I mean, I'm trying to think, because that was WPSA. I don't even remember how anybody even did.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how the points ended up going. Natalia won the championship. I think Dustin was second.
Yeah. You know,
but
and then,
either way, everybody was in the mix. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, you know, I mean, you had the Cowboy guys out there. You had, you know, Timmy and Joe and Tally, and then the Suzuki guys. I mean, it was the start, you know, basically the start of the big truck big truck era is what I would kind of call it, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
and you ended up racing. I'm pretty sure you ended up racing the final WPSA that year, didn't you?
Yeah. So, you know, normal fashion, like, so I raced Glen Helen that year.
Yep.
And I got 4th or 5th or whatever it was, you know, and then I was riding quad cross, and then, then they had that invitational race.
Yep.
So I raced, you know, I got invited to that. So I raced that. Pat Brown won that thing.
Yep.
So I raced that, which that was a whole mess in itself, because I went, you know, I was racing, but I was also, I would say, having a lot of fun, because it wasn't serious.
Okay.
You know, I was racing quad cross, so I was kind of serious about that, but it was more like, hey, I'm here to have fun, and I got a job now. It's not my full-time deal. And I was doing a little testing for the team, you know, the quad cross stuff. And so on the weekends off, and maybe during the weeks, I was enjoying life very much.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, that invitational race, I was doing some testing, and we had a lot of fun before we got to that. The day before we got to that race, and if you can find a picture, I actually have a black eye at that picture at that race.
Oh shoot!
I showed up there. We were bowling. I was bowling with the guys and the testing guys, and had a little too much fun and slipped and hit my face on a table.
Oh my gosh!
It wasn't a very good story. Everybody's like, "You gonna fight?" When I showed up, I'm like, no, I had too much fun. Fell.
Yeah,
fell
maybe it
floor.
would have been better to say you got in a fight.
Yeah. So I raced that race, which didn't go the best. I actually had a shock issue and
Okay.
stuff of that. And then WPSA, I don't remember if the truck came. My bike was still in the truck from going to the Invitational, I think.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll ride that last WPSA race, kind of, because I don't remember why, but anyways, I wasn't ready for that race. I showed up and had a lot of fun hanging out with people in the pits and things like that. And
Okay.
so I rode that race, but at that point I was like,
You're checked out.
Yeah, I was there, but I wasn't there, kind of deal.
Okay.
That year. And I was like, I knew I was pretty much done full-time racing. So
Racing. Yeah.
I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to go out and win and get a ride, or
Mm-hmm.
teams were kind of full. And I kind of knew it was not
Yep.
the end, but it was the end,
It was the beginning of the end. Yeah. Yeah. I just knew that. I just remembered in my mind, I still could remember you racing that. I think it was, what was that place called? Pleasure Valley? No, not Pleasure Valley. Field of Dreams. And I remembered you racing there. But so that's the end of 07. And then like at what point, because you basically take on like the team manager role at some point. So when does that happen?
So at the end of the year, so kind of got to back up a little bit. So Wayne Henson, was a big part of the team getting started. Him and Rod Kuznak, they were the big reason back in the Z400 stuff of getting that rolling. Wayne came along with Doug when he was doing the hybrid with Tom Carlson. Then they got the Z, and then they kind of turned more into a little bit factory team. And then when that started, in 06, Wayne was the team manager in 06. And I don't know, Wayne's his love of ATV racing is in his blood for sure.
Yep.
And when Jeremiah got hurt, that's kind of the first time anything like that happened to anybody, really. I've been racing for a long time, and that's kind of the first time that happened to anybody as a pro guy or at the races. We lost some people I've had lost some people at the races, but it was, amateurs and things, but never really Bartosik, maybe a few years before that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like, Jeremiah was top guy, and for seeing him get hurt, it really affected a lot of people.
Yeah.
In different ways. It was really hard on Ryan, because Ryan was the mechanic, and I think it kind of affected Wayne a little bit. And Wayne also got really busy with Henson, and I think he wanted to take a step back. So for 07, Wayne basically like stepped away from the team manager role, and Pat that was Pat Alexander, who was been at Suzuki forever, pretty much took on that role. But Pat also had a lot of other roles at Suzuki. And Pat was the team manager in 07, but Pat also couldn't, but Pat was going to pull in a lot of different directions with Suzuki. And so Pat, asked me to do a few things here and there, because I was kind of hanging around and kind of, not that I was super busy, but Pat was like, hey, can you do this for me or help me with this? So I was kind of helping Pat a little bit with a few small things here and there, nothing major.
Okay.
And so Pat just at the end of 07 basically was like, dude, I think he kind of was like, I'm too busy to commit to it. So, like it should be, and so they needed someone to fill that role. And it wasn't something that I asked for or raised my hand for. Brant became a real mentor for me. I feel like he was a big part of, I only was close to Brant for a couple of years, but he was a real big mentor for me for sure. And Brant had this way of doing stuff, I think it was in 2007, he called, because he kind of helped out with the team a little bit here and there. He called me in his office one day. He's like, "Hey, we need a helmet sponsor. We don't have a helmet sponsor for this team." He goes, "I got a buddy over at Fulmer Helmets." Picks up the phone, calls the guy at Fulmer Helmets. He has the guy on speaker. He gets the guy's voicemail and he goes, I can't remember what the guy's name is. Say it's Jay or something. He calls him, "Hey Jay, this is Brand over at Yosh. We need a sponsor for the ATV team. Guess what? You're it. Call me back. I'll send over the details because you're our sponsor now." And hangs up the phone. I'm like, what the heck? Grant was just that guy. He knew everybody. He knew everybody, and he could make those phone calls. And the guy calls him back and was like, "Okay, yeah, what do you guys need?" I mean, he had that relationship with people, and that's how it was.
Sure.
So Brant calls me in his office and is like, "Hey, I got news for you." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he's like, "You're not racing quad cross next year. We don't, you can't be doing that." Because he goes, we talked to some people, and I talked to Pat and a few people, and you're the team manager now. I was like, "What?" He's just like, "Yeah, you're the manager now. You just take over, and you know everybody. You can make the phone calls." And
that escalated quickly.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." I mean, it was never something that I said, "Hey, put me in down for that," or "I want to be it," or asked. Sure. It was basically forced given to me,
Okay.
But I didn't have a problem with it. I was like, "Hey, I'll take it. I'll do it." And so I kind of my job duties and responsibilities and everything at Yosh kind of shifted, and I was the team manager for 08, 09, and 2010. The rest time of the team, I was
the rest of the way. Yeah.
The rest of the way I was team manager. So that was definitely a change in pace, and it was weird because Dustin kind of came up, kind of at that time, that first year Dustin rode, and even the year before, I started hanging out with Dustin and Pat Brown a lot, a couple of years before that. So Dustin and I were pretty close on a personal level. It was weird because Doug was the older guy, the older rider. And then all of a sudden, not that I'm his boss, but I'm running the team, but Doug's Doug and Doug's there. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, not that I got to tell Doug what to do, but it was kind of like, all right, well, I'm kind of in charge of this deal in a roundabout way, but I felt like Doug did Doug, and Doug did his thing, and Doug, and Doug's his own animal, and Doug's going to do what Doug wants to do. So just kind of lead Doug down the path the best you can. I talked to Wayne a little bit about it, and Wayne's just like, yeah, just don't Doug's going to be Doug no matter what you do. Just let him do his thing. And that was what we did with Doug,
Yeah, it kind of had to be, obviously like legendary figure, but these are guys that you were racing against, not that much earlier in this whole thing. Right. And now you're the team manager for the team that they ride for. I can see how it would be, take a little time to find your footing there.
Yeah. Casey Greek, Casey, so here's a roundabout story about Casey Greek.
Okay.
So Steve Owens that I worked for, the water truck guy.
Yeah.
His son, Richie Owens. So Steve raced quads. That's how I met Steve. Steve was a multi-time speedway champion in Costa Mesa. He started racing the Mickey. I think he raced some Mickeys a little bit. Then he also raced the pace races. Well, his boy Richie kind of was coming up dirt bikes and stuff, and so Richie raced a couple quad races as well at some of the pace races, and I think he got like some sixths and some things. He was pretty decent at them.
Okay.
Well, anyways, Richie is really good friends with Casey Greek.
Okay.
So
I see where this is going. Yeah.
So Richie ends up he's like, like all his friends made fun of him for riding quads, and he raced dirt bikes too. So he's kind of went down the dirt bike path instead and started racing supercross and things. And Casey kind of became his mechanic and was wrenching for him at supercross and things. So I knew Casey from Richie, and we'd all hang out together and go to dinner and all the stuff together. So when we needed another mechanic at Yosh, I called Casey and I'm like, Casey, you need a job as a mechanic? He's like, on a quad? I'm like, it's kind of the same thing. It's not too different. Like, I'm like, it's a factory deal. I go, you never know. It might work into a, all of a sudden we're in the same building as the Suzuki guys. You never know. You might get a job over there one day,
Mm-hmm.
He's
Ryan
like,
Cox.
all right.
Ryan Cox.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so he's like, all right. So that's how Casey, I'm the one that drug Casey into the quad world.
now we can't get rid of him.
Yeah, exactly. Now he's the quad guy,
Right.
Yeah. But I'm the one that unfortunately led him down the quad path.
Okay.
So if he doesn't like where he's at, he can blame me, I guess. But
that's funny.
that's how we got Casey into the ATV industry. Suckered him in, and now he's been there ever since.
Right. That's funny how there's so many connections there. The team, I should say, the Suzuki team was wildly successful in your time there as team manager, with Dustin winning a couple titles. Chad won some races before he moved on. Digger won some races. Creamer did, obviously both of those later on. So tons of success. Do you have like a favorite memory while you were the team manager there?
I mean, that one that we talked about, I wasn't a team manager, but being there that race when everybody got on the podium that first time.
Okay.
That was really cool. That was a really cool moment for sure. Probably honestly, the thing that stands out the most out of all the wins and all the stuff that the team did and championships and stuff, probably the one that stands out the most is Wimmer, the year he got hurt and came back and won again and won the championship.
Yeah, he missed a race, right? Missed a race and came back.
Yeah. Dustin, when he had that surgery and stuff, he came and stayed with me. I took him to the hospital or to the surgeon, picked him up, everything. His mom's calling me and is he okay? Is he okay? And I'm talking to her.
Yeah.
So Dustin and I were pretty close then, and him coming back from that, being hurt, missing a race, coming back and winning, and then winning the championship. That was, it wasn't like we didn't know if he was going to win again or anything, but him winning again and then winning the championship that was the feeling of being a racer and the feeling of being someone on a team and winning are different. But that when he won that race, it was felt like everybody on the team succeeded. We succeeded as a group, kind of, and
Sure.
he was a cog in that whole machine of that whole thing. And
well, like you said, winning as a team and winning as a rider are different things, but at the same time, winning as a team has a different sensation, like a different fun sensation and vibe because of doing it together. Yeah.
No, and I mean, between the two, honestly, I felt more, I won races and I was always happy to win races and it felt good to win races, but I always felt like when the team won, it was almost more of an accomplishment. I don't know why. It almost felt like it meant more when you won because we had so many people under, not so many, but there's so many people that are involved in everything, and you kind of are doing it for somebody else, not yourself. And it almost feels more rewarding doing it for somebody else or being a part of it, and you can help somebody, or you have something in a portion you put in to make something.
I understand that.
It felt really rewarding at that time, and you feel like you got a lot out of it.
Yeah, I feel a little bit of that now. Even as a rider, my sponsors, when I was a pro, I was not winning races. I wasn't on the podium, but I was, near the top 5 at times, top 10 guy. But at the same, my sponsors might've cared a little bit. The people that cheered for me might've cared a little bit. The people that paid attention. But other than that, I was nobody really cares. Like nobody cares what I'm doing. And now even with this stuff, like I feel like the sport's benefiting from what we're doing here. And I get I get better, good feelings about this even more than I was a racer. You know what I mean? So I can see some of that. But yeah, it's crazy to think, you go from, racing against these guys. Now you're managing these guys. And, we touched on Chad a little bit, you raced Chad, obviously you managed Chad when he rode for Suzuki. Now a decade has passed and he's still the guy to beat. Do you have any thoughts on what Chad's done over the course of time here?
Yeah. Also, when kind of go back a little bit, when Suzuki hired Chad, Chad definitely made a statement at the beginning of the year, but everybody, and it was, it was like when Ryan and I sat there and saw him that first race, like you knew there was something different. And when Suzuki hired him, it was, you had that feeling, like everybody at the team had that feeling that Chad could win every weekend almost, and he was going to be a champion. Like everybody, like it, you knew it. Like
sure.
It was this weird deal. Like Dustin was winning, but it had this feeling like Chad's going to be a winner. You could just see it, you could feel it. He kind of just had that, but the problem at the time Chad had was, I mean, I love Chad, but the problem he had at the time was his mentality was he kind of like knew that, but he would just go out and ride the bike as hard as he could. It was like he was proving a point to say, I'm the best.
Yeah.
Instead of like, and he would just burn clutches up and just, do things. And it was the whole time it was like, Chad, slow down, save the bike. Your bet is like, you can win, you can be a champion. It's like, just, calm the fuck down.
Well, isn't it funny how he's the opposite now? Total opposite.
That's what I was getting at. It's like everybody in that tent that worked in that team knew that. I mean, Theo, Ryan, Kevin, everybody, Pat, Rod, everybody had that feeling. It's just, it was trying to control him to get him to understand that, and the sad part is, Chad's turned it around. Chad's awesome. He does that now. But the sad part is, like, if he could have done that back then, how many championships he probably could have now, because, he was basically killing the bike at Suzuki. He goes to Cowie, kills the bike there. He goes to Can-Am, kills the bike there. And I think finally when, maybe it was when he started his own program in the Yamaha, he kind of like realized, like, maybe it's because his own program now. It's like, I need to take care of this thing. I need to make it last, kind of all, I think the Yamaha had something to do with it, but also I think it all kind of clicked because it was maybe his own program. But you can definitely see a change from, or maybe it was, I don't know if it's him leading the points or getting hurt that Can-Am year, but there was a change from that Can-Am year to the Yamaha year for sure. And how he operated and did it and looked at everything and did everything. He had almost like another light switch turn on. That was a different person from 2010 or 11 to that year that he won, first year he won the championship, and he's been different ever since then. I think when he learned it and saw it, then it was like, oh yeah, this is it, and that's the road he's been on ever since then. Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. He comes out and redefines himself for 2007, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, he kind of learns every step of the way. He was always able to win, even on the different bikes. But he was riding everything into the ground and finally figured it out. And now we've seen what it's become. So it's, it's cool to hear your perspective on that. Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC has been supplying riders with aftermarket components from the industry's top brands for over a decade. With over 80,000 products in stock for your ATVs, UTVs, metric and HD motorcycles, dirt bikes, and snowmobiles, Bikes, Trikes, and Quads LLC can tend to all your power sports needs, from hard parts to riding gear.
Bike Strikes and Quads also offers hard-to-find used parts for your vintage dirt bike, ATV, three-wheeler, or snowmobile. Use discount code ATVMX at www.btqllc.com for 10% off of orders of $100 or more. We're grateful to have Bike Strikes and Quads LLC digging deep with us. Thank you, BTQ LLC. We are proud to be partnered with Gripped Gloves. Gripped is an ATV rider owned and operated brand with the rider in mind and the goal of keeping costs affordable. The Michigan-based family operation recognizes riders' desire to showcase their identity. Owner David Payne's love for eccentric colorways and crazy patterns shows in his product, something not often found in the work of big manufacturers. Here to push stereotypes and limitations, Grip's drive is to produce a glove with cool colors and designs that won't break the bank. With comfort and quality as key motivators, the family affair is constantly working on the next more innovative and improved glove. Get a grip on life, join the Gripped movement, because no one wants a bland glove. Check them out today at grippedgloves.com, that's GRIPT gloves.com, and use discount code DIGGINGDEEP10 to save at checkout. Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by the 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the concrete division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSE to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundervillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. So as we get closer to current day racing and try to tie this thing up, one of the coolest things you've done to date really was show up at Daytona on that Walsh Quadzilla 500 hybrid. So tell me about that experience and how that came together, because that was so badass.
Geez, I don't remember how that, I'm trying to remember how the thing got started. I think Mike and I were BSing. God, it had to be, so Pale City, Alabama. Was that not Pale City? No. What's the race in Georgia? There was a Georgia National, probably 2010, 11, 2011. Aonia Pass.
Okay.
Yeah, 2011, I think.
Okay.
I was BSing with Mike. I went to that race and I was BSing with Mike, and I don't remember how we got started on it. We were just talking about the good old days and the two strokes and this and that, and God, somehow we just started talking about too bad the two strokes weren't around anymore, and they're so much slower than the bikes now. Yeah, you need, somehow we got we need a 500, and we just kind of BSing about it. And I don't remember how it got started. All of a sudden, Mike sent me a picture because I'm building the 500. And I'm like, what? And so him and I were kind of texting back and forth a little bit about that 500, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna build this 500. And So, anyways, he's building this thing, and he's like, do you want to ride it? He's like, I'm gonna do a shootout, and you want to ride the thing? And I'm like, and Daytona, I think that was the second year of Daytona, maybe.
I think so, because yep.
And I was like, oh man, and he's right there by Daytona, and I was like, well, shoot, just kind of worked out that, he built that bike, he built a CRF 450 to kind of do it. They were the same bikes, just different motors. So like a new hybrid and an old two stroke, basically, just so the motors are only different. Like if you had a big bore two stroke and a 450, which one's better kind of deal. So we worked out a magazine deal with it, and it was basically like, well, let's ride the things at Daytona, and so we did a shootout, and Kramer rode that, at the shootout, and I rode the other bike, and
okay,
it was a great bike. I wish it was I've been trying to build one ever since. It's halfway done.
Okay.
Out of a stock frame. But the most fun I've ever had riding a bike. It had so much power. It was like it kind of reminded me of also getting on that 400 back in the day, and like,
Sure.
oh my God, this thing's so torquey, so this, so that, I mean, I wish I could have rode a little more and changed a few things for me on it to make the setup a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, man, that track was so small. It didn't have enough room for it to even get going. I felt like.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so don't they kind of have a, like a 4-stroke feel almost just because they're so torquey? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a 4-stroke feel, but the power on it is so long compared to, I think maybe the gearing and the transmission or something, but the power on it is like Daytona. I think I was like second, third gear. Like,
I believe that.
And that was on the long straightaway that they had that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like putting it in third and just blowing by people on hybrids. I was like, geez, like it was like a rocket ship. I mean, it was like all the power you could ever ask for,
Yeah.
It's almost everything you'd ever want. And the power on a bike, it had a low end grunt. It pulled forever, and it's like, it's a 2-stroke. It's has that 2-stroke feel, smell, just the whole deal. It's,
yeah.
I mean, I want to get mine done. It's running. I got a couple other things I got to get, like I got to build a gas tank and a few things. And I'm just like, I want to get done. I want to ride it. And that by far was probably one of the best bikes I've ever ridden that like put a smile on my face. I'm like, this thing's awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I was going to ask or I was going to say, I would like to see it on, like an outdoor track with some big straightaways and a little more spread out, because I think it would be gnarly. Like, can you imagine like at Unadilla or High Point or, Glen Helen, something out there, like with some big straightaways? It's like, you're going to have a cheat code.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's kind of what it feels like. I mean, the sad part is, it's an old now 2-stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trying to get parts for the thing. Like I got lucky, and gosh, I don't know, say lucky. I got a rolling LTR chassis for a guy for basically zero.
Okay.
And I found a Quadzilla that was a guy said he was taking apart to powder coat the frame and had it all in pieces pretty much for like $800.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, I'm like into this thing pretty much nothing, but then I go tear apart the motor and there's no flywheel and it's missing this. And it's still, I mean, Alan Knowles rebuilt the motor for me, and it runs. He ran it on the dyno and the chassis.
Okay.
But I mean, the coming by the parts now are getting hard to beat. So it's like, I want to ride it, but I also don't want to break it because I might not be able to fix it or get it put back together.
Honestly, yeah. I don't blame you. Yeah, as much as it's a conversation or a nice trophy piece, you want to ride it too at the same time. So I thought that was cool because I love when guys like continue to love the sport as much as you do. Like when you fully step away, like there's no way to fully step away. I love that. And that's obviously squarely where you fit in. So, it's cool to like, even now, like you're racing work series races, here in 2021, like, I think that's awesome that you can't help but get away from it,
Yeah. I never have like fully not had a quad or stepped away, but I mean, like I might have go a year here, a year there, and not ride kind of a little bit. But yeah, this year I actually never raced a works race, believe it or not, until this year.
Okay.
And the only reason that came about was Johnny Gallagher was out here and Jared McClure and Kate Osborne. We were sitting around drinking a couple beers, talking, and I was trying to talk Johnny into racing. Jared found a bike to borrow at Works Havasu the first round, and Johnny had a bike out here, and I was trying to talk Johnny into racing it, and Johnny's like, well, I'll race if you race. And I'm like, I'm not going to go out. I'm like, I haven't ridden in like 8 months or a year or something. I'm like, I'm not going to go out and ride Pro-Am or Pro to Works race and run an hour and a half. I'll die.
Right.
He's like, well, ride plus 40A. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll do that. I mean, that's like 50 minutes. I can probably hang on for that long.
Right.
On a basically a Grand Prix course. I'm like, oh, I think I can hold on. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And he's like, what? So it kind of did it as kind of a bet or kind of make him race more than anything. And I went out and raced the first race, and everybody's like, "Oh, Havasu is horrible. It's all sand whoops and it's miserable." And I went out and raced, and it was miserable. But my class ran in the morning when it was still kind of smooth, and so it wasn't too bad. And I had fun. I died. I was like, it could have been 2 or 3 laps shorter, and I would have been happy. But I hung on and finished, and I was like, I actually kind of had fun. So I had to miss the next one, I think, because I had some work stuff, and then I raced Havasu again. And actually, I was gonna try to go ride was it Twin Palms?
Okay.
Motocross National?
Oh, yeah. Three Palms. Yeah.
Three Palms. I was gonna go try to ride Three Palms this year. Actually, I knew somebody was going, or I was talking about maybe even driving because it's kind of a closer one. And
Okay.
I was all fired up about the works race. I was like, I might just go out and just try to show up and ride. I called Harv and I'm like, hey, can I run plus 40? He's like, yeah, you're not a past champion. You should be able to run plus 40. I'm like, sweet. So I was like, I'm going to show up and ride. And I went to this 3rd round of works and I fell off and bruised my hip pretty good.
Oh, shoot.
And it was like a week or 2 before that race. So I'm like, yeah, probably shouldn't go there. That is huge hematoma on my hip.
Yeah. That would have been bad. But yeah.
I still like, I love living on the West Coast, but if I lived on the East Coast, I would have raced nationals way longer, and I probably would still be racing at the nationals in some form or another. I think. Yeah. I can't get away from it. Everybody's like, why are you still riding? Or you can't believe you're still riding. I'm like, I have fun. Like we have a short course series I got and ride. It's kind of like a TT race, and they're going to fire up quad cross again next year at Glen Helen. And so,
awesome. Yeah, that's great.
So hopefully we'll get some guys out motoing again. And Davey Hogsman's kind of come out of retirement a little bit, and so he might
did.
come out and ride. So,
yep, he did.
Yeah. So we might get some people out there and ride some more.
Yeah,
motor races going on.
Yeah, that'd be great. We need to get you to even if it's Texas or whatever, we need to get you to an ATV national too. That would be so cool.
I keep harassing Davey. I'm like, if you go to a couple races next year, I can throw my bike in and I'll go.
I love that.
He was trying to get me because they went to Loretta's.
They went to Loretta's. Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was going to ask him to go, and then I actually had some work stuff that I couldn't go. So
okay.
But yeah, I'm always looking for someone going to national from that area that I could throw a bike in and show up and ride. Yeah, I miss it. I miss going. When the team stuff ended in 2010, that last year, when we signed Kramer and went, I didn't go at all that year, which was hard. As a team manager in 2010, I didn't go to one race. That they cut the budget so much for the team that last year that it was, we were watching every single dollar. We weren't getting any parts. It was super hard. And then when Kramer, went out there and won all those races and won championship, it was killing me inside not to go to the races just because of budget reasons more than anything. I wanted to be there and support him and everything, because that was, there was a couple tough things with the team throughout the years. Everybody's like, oh yeah, everybody thinks it's cool to be a team manager or whatever, but it's tough. It's also tough, like the thing with Chad, basically having to let Chad go. That was super hard. That was really hard. I felt bad for him, like on a personal level, with the way the things ended, just because the way the contracts were with Doug and Dustin and the budget. Basically, Dustin forfeited his Red Bull deal to be a rock star guy, and he won the championship, and the clauses in Doug's contract, Doug was automatically resigned, and the budget they couldn't have. So basically it left, with the way the contracts went and everything, basically left Chad out in the dark, and that I felt for him bad because, like I said, everybody knew Chad could win. Everybody knew Chad could be a champion. And him, that last WPS race in, was it 07?
Yep.
Or whatever that was, when he, helped Dustin win the championship, basically.
07.
That, Chad, yeah, I mean, Chad, I felt bad for Chad for that deal. That really took a toll on the team. A lot of or a few of the crew guys were upset, and left kind of because of that, I feel, so that was a hard year for that. And then, and then in end of 09, Doug leaving, and basically that was, I respect Doug a lot. Doug just, said, if Doug said, I'm not out there risking my life for what I feel I'm not worth, and
Yep.
I totally get that, but budgets are budgets, and it sucked having to make that, happen. But, they needed 2 people, and they only got so much money to spend. And, you already got one guy tied in, and if Doug didn't want to do it for what he felt that he needed, that's his deal. But it sucked to see him go. No, there was nobody at Suzuki that was happy about that. Everybody was pretty bummed about that.
Yeah, of course.
Doug being the legend he is, and being such a big part of that team for so long, that was really hard. But you gotta, as a team and as a business, you got to move on and figure out a way. And that was part of the deal with Creamer. I mean, Creamer was left out without a ride, and not that he did it, he still made good money, but he made good money because he went out and kicked butt.
Exactly.
I mean, I mean, there was a reward there, but you had to go out and fight for it.
Yeah. I mean,
did.
there was a number of things there that happened with Suzuki as it slowly, you could see it slowly coming to an end, right? With, you obviously hated to see Chad get away, but it was the way it had to be. And then with Doug, just like you said, he said to us, he wasn't going to do it basically for free, like Creamer was going to, and Creamer made all his money and win bonuses and incentives and stuff like that. So, I mean, and he just wanted the opportunity to ride the Suzuki. Because of the success that you guys had. So that all made, a ton of sense. And it's just the way that it went. But man, those Suzuki years are so crazy, so iconic, so legendary, really. And I was glad that we could touch on all that. Because you were a big part of that. You were a big part, like we talked about for the last however long here, like literally every part of the sport, every era, every rider, everything, like you've been a part of that. So as we near the completion of this thing, like I said, we've covered a ton, but I have a few, parting questions here, like rapid fire, just to kind of tie this thing up. Is it safe to say that the Liger YZ hybrid was your favorite quad, or maybe even the Quadzilla 500 hybrid thing would have been your favorite quad that you rode? But wanted to get your opinion, because you rode just about everything on some badass quads in your day. Wanted to ask which one was your favorite. What would you call your favorite quad you ever got to ride?
That's a tough one, because everything was so different. I mean, there's bikes I wish I kept. I wish I kept the 250R with like a 330 power valve. I wish I had one of those.
Yeah.
That Lager YFZ quad, I still have that. That's actually one I did keep.
Oh, sick.
I still have that thing. I do have I kept one of the bikes from 06 that went, a brand new race bike, never got ridden, went to all the Yamaha events around the country.
Okay.
So we built a bike, went to a bunch of events, never got ridden. I still have that. Suzuki's were great. I mean, it's, I got a new Yamaha, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's hard to narrow it down. I don't think you can.
Okay.
You can't, you can say, I like this bike because of this, but it's a quad, but they're so different. They're
all different in their own way. Yeah.
They're all different in their own way. But I mean, if I was going to pick one to go ride every day, I'd ride my new YFZR.
YFZ. Yeah.
It has so much technology in it. It works so good. There's so many positives to it. It's better than the old stuff for sure, but it's different. It's just a totally different animal than everything else,
Yeah, that thing is next level. Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, I guess earlier I didn't have a good opportunity to kind of touch on it, but I was going to ask you, because obviously, like, I'm switching my program over. I think you even might have commented or shot me a message on something that I posted about that, but was going to ask you, because I know you love yours, like if you had any words of advice as I, kind of find my footing in this thing. The Yamaha is incredible, obviously, but at the same time, like, this is all new to me.
Yeah. It's, I am, I've been riding quads and working on stuff so much, not so much, but so long.
Yeah.
I'm super lazy. I'm like I'm lazy. Like if you looked at my bike, you'd be like, seriously? Not that I don't maintain it, but like I pull up the starting line, I get off my bike and I flip my parking brake over. People are like, you have a parking brake on that thing? I just don't want to pull it off. I'm lazy. I don't want to take the 2 bolts out and pull it and feed the cable through, and it works. I pull over and inside starting line, park on a hill, I flip it on. It doesn't roll away,
Hey, that's a testament to how good it is from out of the box,
So I mean, I still got a stock steering stem in my bike. I mean,
okay.
I try to think the first year I got one. I got one in 13 was the first year I got one.
Okay.
So I basically built one in 13. I put a Hauser front end on it, some PEP shocks, like some bars, Nerf bars and stuff. And pretty much I've had 3 or 4 since then. And I just pull the parts off and put them on the next bike and put it back to stock and get rid of the old one,
Yeah. Why not?
But I mean, I don't have a bunch of stuff done to it. I got a Hauser. I threw a Hauser front end on there that I've had since 13 now.
Okay.
Some PEP shocks and like a precision steering dampener and handlebars, and Jaime over at PEP, been really, really instrumental the last few years with me. Just kind of probably wasn't for him. I probably wouldn't go as much as I do, but he takes care of me on my motor stuff and tuning, and bike runs awesome. And
that's great.
He's like, what do you want done to it? I'm like, whatever you do, I want as fast as I can, most power I can, but I want to run pump gas.
Yeah.
He's like, what? He's like, what? I'm like, I don't want to spend a bunch of money. I want to go out and ride it for an hour or two and not spend a couple $100.
No, I don't blame you.
Or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it runs really good on pump gas. But it's just a top end, basically from above the piston or head up, I guess,
Yeah.
But got an HMF pipe on it and stuff, but it's kind of just some bolt-on parts, something
That's awesome.
mellow, and it cranks, and I mean, goes out and I pull hole shots on it still, and with me weighing 240 on it, it still runs good. It runs good enough for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I enjoy it.
That's awesome. Like you said, I think that the PEP performance tuning stuff is key for sure. Yeah, so that's awesome. I'm so excited to continue to dive into my whole YFZ 450R experience here. A couple more rapid fire questions for you. So, if I were to ask you which rider you seem to battle with the most over the course of your career, who stands out if I ask you that question?
That's tough, because it's, the 90s, it was everybody. It wasn't like it was one person. I mean, there were so many good guys. You could battle with the guy that's winning the championship. You could battle with the guy that's in 10th place.
Yeah.
I felt like I never got really stuck battling with the same person ever. There was so many people. I don't know if I could answer that.
Couldn't pinpoint.
There's people you always want to beat.
Right.
I mean,
of course.
There's people you want to beat there, but I mean, as far as someone that was always that thorn in your side, it was everybody. I mean,
that was just the era, right? So I wanted to ask because, sometimes it just seems like you find certain people on the racetrack, no matter where you start or whatever, you just end up finding each other. But you're right. I mean, in your era, there was way too many guys to choose from and battle with. So if you could go back in time to any race over the course of your career and relive it, which one would it be?
The Mickey win was pretty cool for sure.
That first one,
because that was that first one in front of all the people.
Yeah.
And not really ever expecting, like, I was there to qualify. I felt like, or do the best I could. I wasn't there to, I didn't feel like I was there to win. I didn't feel like I was that guy. So that was really cool, but probably, the Glen Helen win was really big. I mean, just, like I said, I don't think I didn't win a ton, but everyone was really, really special in its own way.
Of course.
There's never, I didn't win enough to like Chad or Joel that it's like, oh yeah, I got 60 wins. Which one? I got me think about that. When you have half a dozen or a dozen or whatever, in the pro class, they're all pretty special, when you don't click off a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, I think that like I've been saying, I think your consistency and like the way that you were so instrumental for the sport in a million different ways. I think that winning isn't the only thing that matters when it comes to your career. But yeah, I mean, you had a number of memorable races for sure. Memorable wins. Kory, last one for you as we wrap this thing up. Awesome conversation. We'd like to end by asking this of any legend that joins the show with us here at Digging Deep, how you want to be remembered as a racer. And as I stated at the beginning of the first episode, you're a legend, you're a pioneer, a huge part of the sport's history. So how do you want to be remembered, and what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
That's tough. I just, there's still like we said, there's so many different parts that are intertwined with everything. It's, I mean, no matter if it was, Yamahas or Cannondales, I kind of feel like I never got, there's not like I'm like that guy that did that. It's kind of rounded and touched everything a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So it's tough, I mean, I guess it's always been my life, whether it's some form of it, just ATV stuff's always been my life, ATV motocross and everything. It's just been part of my life. And I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that. It's
you know what
I want to remember for,
Right. No, I totally understand, especially because you're so humble. That's why I was kind of curious to ask you, because I knew it might be a difficult question as a fan and, somebody that watched basically your entire career, or for the most part. I think that, like, from our perspective, we're thankful for you and all that you did from each and every step, and then to sit here and recount that and hear those stories about, from the LT 250R to the 250R to the, Canada, the hybrid quads, to the early days of the production quads, to the new Yamaha and all that stuff, all the way up till now, and Suzuki and everything else. Like, it is unreal to hear like how you touched so many different eras and so many aspects of legendary parts of this sport. It's just amazing. So like I said, you couldn't tell the history of this sport without you. And for that, I think we're grateful. And then to hear all of it with you, to have all this time spent with you and have you be so gracious with it. Man, this has been an awesome experience for us too.
Well, sorry to drag on so long.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. This has been so much fun. But Kory, on that note, I think that we could wrap it up. I feel like we broke just about everything down as much as we could. And I hope you had some fun, because I've enjoyed every moment of this thing. And it's truly been an honor to spend this time with you. Like I said, somebody that I looked up to like a god when I was younger, but I still look at you like, Kory Ellis, the guy that's winning races or whatever in the early 2000s. And yeah, man, like I said, I'm just trying to say that this was special, and I can't thank you enough for spending all this time with us. I appreciate it so much.
Oh yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on. Hopefully, I might make it to a national or two this next year.
That would be
right. That'd be cool.
That would be killer. Yeah, if you make it to one of these races, obviously we'll get you back on to talk about it. And yeah, like I would love to get you back on sometime, just in general. You ever want anything you want to cover, GBC stuff, whatever it is, you have an open invitation here anytime. You're always going to be welcome at Digging Deep. And again, like, I can't thank you enough for this. This has been so awesome.
You can just get me on so I can harass Casey. I'll be happy with that.
that sounds perfect to me.
He calls me every once in a while from the races, and it's about 12 o'clock my time. So he's enjoying himself.
No, I'm sure.
Once in a while.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Me.
I can imagine that. Well, Kory, thanks so much for being such an awesome guest. We need to thank Yamaha and their industry-leading YFZ450R. Visit YamahaOutdoors.com, YamahaBlueCrew.com, or Yamaha Outdoors on social media today for more info on Yamaha's full off-road lineup. And on that note, we'll wrap this thing up. And Kory, thanks again for doing this. You're the man. We appreciate you being so gracious with your time. And let me wish you and your family all the best. But until next time, we're going to have to get you to one of these nationals. We'll get you back on the show. And until then, wishing you all the best.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
You're the man. Thanks so much. That's Kory Ellis right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, brought to you by Yamaha. Thanks so much, Kory. Thanks again. Man, it's going to be hard to top this one. Talk about an epic conversation with such a well-spoken, knowledgeable, and connected guest. That was awesome. Looking forward to more with him in the future. Major thanks to tonight's featured guest, Mr. Kory Ellis. Awesome dude. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to all of our past donors. Remember, you can find those donation links on our website. We appreciate those of you who have so graciously donated. Thanks to our partners, CST Tires, shop.csttires.com, Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew, Valvoline, SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Gripped Gloves, Factory 43, Bike Strikes and Quads LLC, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support all the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. Find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise, including Digging Deep shirts and hoodies, our Quad Guys Get Hot Chicks shirts and hoodies, back-to-back national champ merch, and more are all available today at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com. As I mentioned, if you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee buttons. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. Keep sending your questions, stories, and topics in to be featured on an upcoming episode. Don't hesitate to call into our voicemail line with them so we can play them on the show. That number is 920-569-3519. Follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, coverage, and more fun stuff throughout the off-season. As for the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links, and discount codes, our show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend, please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that, for Kory Ellis, Brooke Catherine, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to the #1 podcast in ATV racing, 3 million downloads and counting. Until next time, thanks for joining us and digging deep with the stars of ATV motocross. See you next time. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quadlers are freaking gnarly.